Welcome to the Really 007 podcast. I'm John Kell, and we're here for this special behind the camera interview with stuntman, stunt coordinator, and actor Andy Bradford. Andy has over 50 years' experience of performing, coordinating, and directing stunts, action scenes, and action sequences, including the James Bond films For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and Never Say Never Again. You can watch our other interviews on our YouTube channel, but you can listen to every episode on iTunes and Spotify. We're on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so come and join the conversation. And with me today, we have regular contributor Chris Goldie and Encyclopedia of Stunts, Mr. Jon Auty.
Okay, great.
Very exciting
Great.
introduction. Thank you.
But with due respect to those two and myself, we're most proud to introduce Andy. Andy's showreel is quite incredible. He's appeared in a huge amount of films and TV over the years and has been involved behind the camera coordinating stunts on countless more. Bond fans probably know him best as 009, who's dressed as a clown and pursued to his death at the start of Octopussy. I thought you were just about to reach and do something then, Andy.
No, I was reaching for my nose because, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
He's made notes. We like this.
Yeah,
like
that's brilliant. So it's just a pleasure to have you on the show today, Andy. We're really looking forward to just speaking to you. Am I right in saying that you were an actor first before you were a stunt performer?
Yeah, before I didn't have any plans to be anything, to be honest. My brothers were quite motivated educational wise, and I just left school and my mates were answering, yes, sir, he's here, sir. Yeah, sir, Bradford, sir, where is Bradford? I was loading steel at the factory, actually, making a bit of money to pay for motorbikes. Anyway, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really didn't. So my mother, who was brought up 4 kids by herself, my dad died shortly after the war, and she was having a fling with a detective, and he came late one Christmas Day and was fishing bodies out the Thames, and I thought, well, that might be quite an interesting job, might get to drive fast cars around corners and chase crooks and robbers and all that stuff. Anyway, but so he said, well, go to Hendon. There's a special course. If you make the grade, you go into Hendon, do your Hendon stint, go on the beat for 1 year, and if you make the grade, you go straight into special branch. Right, bang. So got through all the interviews, got through the medicals. The smallest guy ever accepted. Yeah, they said I'd grow, but I haven't. I've shrunk. I'm not even getting to Bond, am I? And I haven't even tuned in. I only had a sip. But anyway, so I used to be the family clown. Yes, seriously, I always joked around. Same at school, always joked around. But I did never thought of anything but going right back to early stages. As a boy, from about the age of 8, I used to go with my mum and my sort of family to a little farm outside Bristol, a little place called Tickenham. And from Tickenham, it wasn't far from a place called Weston-super-Mare. And when I first went to Weston-super-Mare, which had these flat sands, there was an amazing leader, which doesn't really exist anymore, with 10-meter diving. So I heard about a sort of, a clown show, an aqua show. So I thought, I'll get in. I was only 8. And I watched some guy come out, the clowns were on the board, soaring planks, and falling off into the water. I thought, hey, this is great. I like that, actually. And then with that, there'd be a fanfare of trumpets. And suddenly all the housewives were like this because the trampoline was put on. And in came a guy who I didn't know his name, but I know his name now, called Alf Joint, in the tiniest pair of leopard skin swim trunks.
Wow.
He did a most amazing act, and then climbed up the 10 meters, the 10-meter board, and beyond the 10-meter board, they had erected scaffolding going up another at least 3 meters. And halfway down from that, they'd set a trampette, which is a small trampoline, which we use a lot in stunting. And he used to launch himself, just step off 13 and a half meters onto the trampette, get an amazing elevation and triple somersaults. It was, for me, every Sunday, I pedaled 15 miles there, 15 miles back on my cousin's 16-inch wheel bicycle with my brother. So I was doing 30 miles, I was a good cyclist when I was younger. And that's, I just think that Alf Joint, I didn't know it was Alf Joint. I didn't have a program. And then later on, when I was older, I used to, I'm meandering a bit because I haven't even got on how I got into acting, have I? So anyway, that was something in my mind. And anyway, as for clown, I was one Sunday evening, my brother's best mate, a guy called Terry Long, who taught me to ride a motorbike. And I always remember Terry, a really sort of dashing, handsome guy. And he said to me, "You're going to the police force." And I was doing a little impersonation of Jack Warner in Dixon Dock Green, the evening. Oh, you won't remember this because it's a long time ago. And he said, I saw a program called Face to Face, and they used to interview various people. I can't remember who the presenter was, but they had interviewed Albert Finney. And he said, "You know what? Something about Albert, you remind me a bit of Albert Finney, the way you talk." And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, I think you should, don't go. You signed Queen and Country, don't go. I can't see you in the police force. I cannot see you in the police force. So I wandered out to the kitchen. My mum was washing up this huge pile of dishes, which she always did with 4 kids and family and mates coming round. And I said to him, I said, "Mum, Terry Long thinks I should be an actor." "Well, darling, I don't know quite how you do that. You've never been on the stage in your life." I said, "Once I did. I'd still got a photograph of it on my mantelpiece. I played the lead, actually. I still cow horns." So anyway, she said, "Well, I suppose you applied to a drama school." I got into 3. I didn't ever try harder. Yes, I should have done. No, I shouldn't. But anyway, I got into 3. I couldn't believe it. So I thought, oh, great. But of course, then we had no money, and I always worked. I always had a job. All my brothers, we all had jobs from the age of 11 to pay for things, And anyway, I went to the interview to see if I could get a grant from Middlesex County Council at that time. No way. So I thought, I'm still going. I'll fund myself. So for the first year, I had a car cleaning business down in Kensington. Very nice cars, cleaning cars. So I'm getting way off course. So you have really evidence. So cleaning cars and paying for things and having a really good time. You imagine going to a boys' school and then suddenly splat, you're in the 60s, 1962.
Oh, yeah.
London. Wow. Such a wonderful time, didn't do it. Anyway, cut luck. Boom. I left drama school after the first year. The principal kindly got in touch with the county council and said, "Hey, he's one of the talented members of our I think he should have a grant." And they gave me a grant. So from then on, which was very kind of this guy and this principal, and I left drama school with 3 agents to choose from, and that's pretty unknown. And
Wow.
yeah, I went to Glasgow Citizens Theatre, which is a great stomping ground. Great actors started at Glasgow Citizens, Brian Cox, Mark Rylance, they all sort of started there. And I spent 7 months there, had a good time, came away from there, more reps. Where did I go from there? Then I sort of had a stint out, and I thought a bit disillusioned, and I thought I was going to join the RAF as a PTI instructor. But no, I got a job at the Bristol Vic. No, that's not quite true. I started working. A great friend of mine who was married to a very powerful agent called Duncan Heath. Her name was Hilary Dwyer. It's drama school. I used to go over there. Beautiful girl. She did the Witchfinder General, films like that. She got me a job backstage with the Doyley Cart Opera Company. So I was making a lot of money. I was the assistant flyman. But I went to the Bristol Vic and I played in a really interesting play called Sergeant Musgrave's Dance. From there, I went into another rep. Then I went to Stoke-on-Trent, and there were people at the theatre like, oh God, there was Ben Kingsley, a lot of good actors.
Wow.
I thought I was going from a first division club like football to a second division, but Stoke-on-Trent was full of really good young actors. I was amazed, Spent a bit of time there, then went to the Edinburgh Lyceum and Richard Eyre. You've probably heard of Richard Eyre, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the worst beating up of my life from Richard Eyre. History.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We both like this wardrobe girl who looked just like Sandy Shaw. Now, Sandy, this is going back to the 60s, fellas. Sandy Shaw, no shoes.
No shoes, then?
After, yeah, Sandy Shaw. And one night, I actually I got the show finished early, and I took her out. Great, Everything was happening. I lived across the Forth Row Bridge, which is quite a drive out of Edinburgh. 2 and 6 each time you go over. 2 and 6 today's money, that's a lot of money. Anyway, everything going great. And at about 3 o'clock in the morning, she said, "Oh shit, I got to go home." And I said, "What? Now?" Yeah, so I had to drive a little Mark 1 Sprite, a picture of my Mark 1 Sprites on behind me, the best car I ever had. I liked it. So I drove back and I was sitting in the car, and it's only a little open car, cuddling and kissing. And suddenly she went, "Oh shit, here's my dad." And this docker came out in the real braces, the vest, the white vest. And I didn't know her surname even. I said, "Good evening."
Oh no.
Apparently, so the black eyes, everything. I was doing a play, and I go into rehearsals the next day. And Richard Eyre said, "Shit, what's happened?" Well, I took her to Sandy Shore last night and home, and I met her dad. I was still sitting there. How I got away. So he said, "Shit, I spent the last 3 nights with her." I went, "Did you? You owe me, pal. You owe me." I've never done it, but if you can imagine, I've got a photograph up here. It's a tiny little Mark 1 Sprite, A35 engine. I did so much miles in that car.
You've told this story about Al Joint and the clown,
Oh,
this,
yeah.
and
Well,
all of a sudden, this inspiration that years
yes.
later you become the clown.
Also, people that you have interviewed before. I lived in a little place, well, not far from where Alf Joint was brought up, and another stuntman was brought up and I scattered his ashes a year or so ago, Roy Scammell, who I know since I was 8, 9 years old. He taught me to dive, or gave me the inspiration to go for it, somersaults off diving boards. And there used to be diving boards in pools. They're health and safety. You can't even dive off the side without somebody blowing a whistle, I think I better stop my stories. But yeah, I had a long time in Bristol Vig. And then I worked in theatres like the Roundhouse. There's that there with a very famous mime called Jean-Louis Barrault. We did a wonderful film called Les Enfants de Paradis, The Infants of Paradise.
Right.
He was just the most, if anybody asked me who's the most incredible guy you've ever met, it's got to be Barrault in a way, because he taught me a lot. He was extraordinary. And I had the most extraordinary interview for him. Who has ever had an interview? A friend of mine was he saw a friend. He used to be an assistant director of the RSC, Michael Bogdanovich. And he said, and he was on the phone, he said, "So the guy's got a stand on his head for how long? 10 minutes, quarter of an hour? Shit." And he's got a shit. And my mate was going, he said, "Well, I know somebody who could do that." Yeah. So I go for an interview to the Irish Club. And it was down in somewhere. No, it wasn't at the Irish. It doesn't matter. I'm introduced to Jean-Luc Barrault, and he's very French. He's got the scarf, and he says, "You stand on your head?" And I said, "Yeah, stand on your head." I said, "Like a yogi." So I went on my head, and he walked away. So I stayed on my head. And I was looking around, watching. He was interviewing a lot of very beautiful dancers and people at the show. And he came back and he leaned down. He said, "How are you? Is your name Bradford?" And I said, "Yeah." "You okay?" "Yeah." "Not giddy?" I said, "No." So I kept going, and he went away again. And suddenly I felt this movement, and a pair of arms came down. And this guy was in his 60s then, I think. And he came up sideways onto a headset. So we're both upside down. And he's talking to me. And he said, "No, you make a tree." So I made a tree. He said, "No, you make a dog." So I made a dog. And he said, "The dog likes pissing at the tree." So I did this whole mime on my head. And eventually he got up and he says, "Okay, Bradford, we start work on Monday. Don't be late." So that was it. I won't go on about any more stories, but I spent a lot of time in the theatre, and I love the theatre.
Yeah.
Yeah, the theatre, is just amazing. So, and I did another big show at the Roundhouse for a very famous Japanese percussionist called Stomo Yamashita. And Stomo used to play the temple drums, the Japanese drum. He was a very charismatic guy. So my wife at that time was doing a Poldark, I think, and this actor was coming and looking more and more grey and grey. And she said, "Hey, you all right?" He said, "I've taken this job. There's no money. It's the most incredible job I've ever done. I don't think I can do it anymore. I've got to tell him I quit." She said, "What are you doing?" "I'm doing this thing with this Japanese guy." And she said, "Stomo Yamashita," because I'd seen the show. She knew I'd see his first show. It's called Man from the East, and it was the most spectacular theatre I've ever seen. And yeah, I ended up playing the dog, but that's another story. Going forward a lot. So I got Roy Scammell, used to go to gymnastics and watch people like Alf Joint doing this trampolining training, with so many other guys. I'm trying to think of all the people. Anyway, I'm on a beach in Galway in Ireland on a film with Alfred the Great, a terrible film. It was wonderful time.
1970.
68, actually.
Close.
I've still got a program because we did a Biafra. Yeah, I've still got a program when we did this sort of show, and I did some poetry reading with the stunt guys. I was going through my old archives trying to find this program.
I mean, we'd love to know how you first got into the Bond world, because obviously Octopussy wasn't your first film.
Uncle Bob Simmons, as a wonderful guy. I like Bob a lot. Everybody loved Bob. He was so generous. Anyway, I got a call to we're going to Greece. We were going, first of all, I think it wasn't Rhodes, it was the other one, Corfu, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we all arrive off the plane, and I didn't know many. I knew a lot of the guys on it. I knew Martin well, because Martin and I will go back a long, long way to the 60s, perhaps 62. I probably met Martin first, when I used to swim a lot. And he used to run where I used to run still. Don't run much anymore. And I knew Roy from Hendon when I was 8, 10 years old, the swimming pool. He was a lifeguard there, the Adonis lifeguard. My sister used to sit in his chair and look up at him. He was quite a character. But the first Bond, I got sort of cast as a sort of a big fight on a boat. Yeah, it was quite interesting, that story, because we all rehearsed. Uncle Bob took us down. We went to this quayside and we were rehearsing this sort of big fight on the boat. Well, we've got it all. We've got partners. We've got it all okay. And we went near the water's edge. It's a beautiful day, so all the boys get in skinny dipping, you see. And there's a couple of American girls that joined us for skinny dip, and then suddenly, down there, no Uncle Bob. Suddenly, there's this beautiful cavalcade of very expensive Mercedes coming towards us. We thought, shit, that must be the people, United Artists. So there's a whole stunt boys literally covering themselves, getting out, pulling on stuff, trying to, true story, absolute true story.
Cold in the water as well.
No, it's beautiful. No, it's good. It wasn't like Highgate Pond. I go swimming in the water. We'd all be putting ourselves up against radiators. There's stories about that in the 60s, because I tell you what, we had can you imagine having to do a nude audition for dance?
Oh my word.
That's another, yeah. Well, if you do shows at the Roundhouse, because there was all Calcutta, all my friends were in things like that. The old days. But the guy I was having to do a featured kung fu type fight with, I shan't tell you his name, but he didn't turn up on the filming night. So Uncle Bob said, well, you can do all these throws and falls. Just think about the frame, Andy. And it's like coming in from the wing, somersaulting, coming in, taking a blow, flattening yourself on the floor, go back out. So I was virtually in that sequence. There are some quite good stills, actually. And I'm virtually fighting with myself. Not a long story. At the end of it, John Gellin and a few of us, myself, Jim Dowdle, Gareth Milne, were chosen to go to Meteora, where the sequence, amazing sequence. And we had a good time there. And I was introduced to Robert Ludlum's books by Jim Dowdle. It was, and of course, saw the rigging of that incredible stunt that Rick Sylvester did. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, we'd love you to tell us about that, actually, that stunt, and actually the filming on the mountaintop in Greece, because it's outrageous.
We looked at this. It was an incredible sequence, because even the pitons being kicked out of the rock, it's incredible. there were a lot of good, Topol was there. Great guy, Topol. I am Topol.
Topol.
Loved him. Good goalkeeper too, actually. Yeah.
Goalkeeper?
Yeah, we used to makeup and costume. Said, "What are you doing, I am?" He said, "I'm in goal," and he's diving at everybody's leg. So
That's amazing.
sorry, I'm not keeping to the story.
No, I want to hear more about Topol as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, Topol, the goalkeeper. He was such a nice. Him and Roger Moore together. If you're being dragged up the side of a set mountain, I've got the crossbow, so naughty to me, really. I was trying to keep it, I was laughing and stuffing and stuff. Because when Roger Moore just takes you, he's got that, he knows exactly where the framing is. I won't tell you where he had his other hand as he dragged
I'm going to pick Andy up like a bowling ball. Oh, no.
It was hey, I've got good memories. I didn't do it. Bond for me is something.
He's all right. Leave him.
Mina νησυχείς.
He's all right. Back. Okay, let's go. I'll be with you. Sorry.
The one sad thing is that roll on, and somebody mentioned it. I couldn't do the last day on the Bond, and it was so upset. I was working for Alf Joint on the Keep, and he phoned. I'd just come back from a cross-country run. He phoned. He said, "What are you doing, Andy?" And I said, "I've just having a shower." Why? We said, "I want you to come up to Place Festiniog in North Wales where they're doing the Keep." And then the Bond got in touch, and they were willing to send a helicopter. And Alf, it was really horrible. He was my mentor, he was my boyhood hero. So I couldn't back out. And I said, "Alf, what are we doing? You're here. Did they pay you a retainer?" And I said, "No, Alpha. I did actually. I didn't have an agent there. And that was going through a bad period. I said, he said, "Well, no retainer?" And, "Yeah, well, they can't have you. I want you. You're with me." And I was so sad, really sad, because I enjoyed Octopussy. It was a great trip.
So is this, sorry, just to clarify, this was the 009, so you'd done some of it and then...
I did all of it except for the last crashing through the window, which I'd love to have done with the egg.
Guests have arrived, Ambassador.
We should go, my dear.
The scene with 009, and we were talking before, this is actually the plot of the whole film. This is what the film hinges on, So whilst it may only be one scene as such, it's actually one of the most important. And for me, as I was thinking about it, possibly the best post-title sequence in the series, like straight after the credit sequence. I mean...
Okay. With the airplane and the...
Octopussy in itself, you've got this idea where you've just had this unbelievable acro star, like pre-title sequence.
Yes, yeah.
Bombastic, very OTT, very adventure-based. And then you're going straight into East Berlin, and you've got a clown running and the fear coming from you.
Over the wall. I love it.
It's unbelievable.
What his costume is.
So please just tell us how you came to get that role, how you prepared for it, because we just love to know.
I certainly owe Martin Grace, dear Martin, think about him a lot still. He was on a recce with Bob Simmons and they got to a point where on this Neen Valley, they were up and looking at this thing, and he said, "We've got to get the actor here. We've got a stunt double in the waterfall." Shit, so then we got another. And Martin said, "Excuse me, John, but I know somebody who could do both the stunts and the acting." He said, "Sure?" He said, "Can he act?" Yeah, he can act. I promise you. He's a clown too in his real life. So that's how it happened. And John sort of remembered me from For Your Eyes Only, just that little bit when I look through the window and, come out, hop over
Yeah.
the fence, get the thing. Yeah. And when I was going, and that I owe that to Martin. Yeah. So that was really down to Martin. And on the plane out to Berlin, there was the opening start of the filming for Octopussy. I think it was there. I think they started in Berlin. John Glenn, suddenly I'm sitting there reading my card, a bit left, always been left. And, John Glenn sat down next to me and I thought, why isn't he up at the front? Why isn't he up at the front with the rest? And we started to talk. And he was starting to, he didn't know what I'd done. He just took Martin's word that I'd done a bit of acting in my time.
Yeah.
And I'd gone through a divorce. I just left everything, left a very nice home with 28 quid in my jeans and lived in one room for 10 years. Had a wonderful time, but that's another story. Yeah, so I went to Berlin and I just thought, yeah, I can do this. He explained the situation. So I just did it. You have to, it's stage acting, you have much more time to prepare, sometimes too much time. And, you play. There was no background to this guy for me at that time. John let me have his sort of what I thought, and they seemed to like it. There was one thing, I was with Michael Wilson, and I'd gone to the bar after the first day's filming. I'd seen the rushes, and it's what we call actors' paranoia when I was in it. I'm having a beer, and he came and Michael gave it and said, "You've seen the rushes, eh?" And I went, I had that, oh shit, are they that bad? And he did turn to me, Michael Wilson, he said, "Have you ever thought about acting?" And I said, "Sometimes, yeah, I do." Because they were pleased with them. I was surprised. We always.
What's always struck not only us, but many who have seen the film hundreds of times, as all of us have, but is your ability as an actor, as a performer, as a stunt performer, but also as an actor, to put on screen absolute fear, because you are running for your life as a character. You are running away from these two knife-wielding characters from the circus, and there's a moment where you hear a noise, you turn back, you run. The expression on your face is one of absolute fear. You are running for your life, and then the hat comes off, and then the balloon bursts, and other things.
Yeah.
Moments, just moments. I've often wondered if anybody else, maybe the initial idea was we must get an actor who can do this, and Martin's gone, well, hang on, I know somebody who can not only do this but can do that. So you combine the two together.
Yes.
I've always wondered if it may not have worked with anybody else, and I think that's the massive strength that you had.
Yes.
Be able to deliver not only the physicality of the whole thing, but the emotion of the whole thing as well. It's very powerful.
Well, thank you, John. That's a very nice thing to say.
On John's point about the opening, about how you're able to sort of portray, how you're able to portray, obviously, like you say, that sense of fear. Not only, like you say, is it such a physical performance, but you're also portraying it through a face full of clown makeup, which it makes it even more astonishing. And I think so. Like to say, just sort of take it back, and it's like your background of obviously being an actor, but also a lot of your roles being very physical, like say you're standing on your head, the circus side of things, and obviously you kept yourself very fit. Did that kind of lend itself to acting is about your body, so when it came to stunts, you were comfortable with doing that?
Yeah, because I did a very big show at the Roundhouse with this guy called Stomy Yamashita, which I played a dog. All Japanese cast, but the dog had to be played by an Englishman because it was a sort of Labrador dog, and an Englishman's a dog. So I did the whole thing with this amazing kabuki lion's head, which was heavy, man, heavy, and nothing else on really except a pair of sort of anklets, wristlets, and a loincloth, furry loincloths one has worn in one's life. The Rocky Horror Show is the one you don't want to remember.
No, not at all. It was just a jump to the left, apparently, that did it.
Mary Selway, thank you, Mary. I know you're welcome, and I love you. He was my savior in my career many times.
Mm.
When the chips were down, I'd get a call from Mary Selway, and something would happen.
Brilliant.
So yeah, physical theatre, the Bond. Yeah.
And like you say, just being very like looking after you, like you mentioned about doing cross country and being kind of physical. It's sort of like it feels like a natural progression from, and like mentioned before recorded, like Robin Redbreast, where you are. You know, we talk about like the male gay. I absolutely love that film. I think it's.
I wished I could do it again now with my. You know, it was a very fine director that did it.
Yes,
he still does the McTaggart lectures in Glasgow. You know?
Right. Okay.
And
I think it's.
I broke my fist the first take on the first one. I had to do a sequence on the tree, and they left a nail head, and I would have now checked it as a stuntman, stunt coordinator. Don't let. Anyway, but I finished it. But yes.
And that's again another physical, and you look like Bruce Lee. You look like very little body fat. You know, when you're, you know, we get to see quite a lot of you, you know, in that film. And I just wanted to say, because it's such an astonishing bit of, and also a really important piece of British television. The writing is phenomenal, and your performance along with Anna Cooper,
Anna
Cropper.
Anna Cropper.
She gives one of the best.
Amazing. It's a great piece.
It's astonishing. Yeah. But because obviously, I think like a lot of people, you know, we see you in so many different things that it's like, oh, it's him again.
Yeah,
it's him again.
absolutely.
It's him again. It's an episode of Mr. Bean. It's him again. You know, it's just like, and
Mr.
I think
Bean was a nice one. Thank you, Jim Dowdle. I made more money out of Mr. Bean than any other job I've ever done.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Forget the bombs, forget anything else. You made incredible. Yeah. I liked him. He employed me a lot, or asked me a lot. Even being a piece of luggage which he climbs into in the station, you know, which is tossed from a big mail bag. It's me inside. Wow. God,
well, we have to start our Mr. Bean.
We're never going to get to
time,
Bond,
but let's get back to.
I mean, we're just going back to the actual Octopussy scene and adding on to Chris's part about the physical theatre. I think one aspect that gets me is the actual clown shoes, and what it is with that is that they look silly, but they somehow add to the horror. Because
you're absolutely right, because you don't have time. It's like wearing high heels. I do that a lot. But you know, you to move in them is quite something.
Precisely.
Very difficult. And I love Bob Simmons. I wasn't sure about the fight, but in fact it's sort of clown, and with the beats it sort of works with the big shoes and the knee up. You know,
yes.
It was all a bit, how can I say, 70s type. But Bob is, you know, do it different now. It's not, but it has a style. But thank you guys for liking it.
It's quite nightmarish, isn't it? It's like like nightmares you have where you can't climb the stairs or you can't run fast enough.
Absolutely.
It is one of those interesting things, because throw a stick, you'll hit half a dozen people who really can't stand clowns. There's something about clowns that appeals to a generation of people, and then when they get older, they go, "Oh, do you know, clowns? I can really do without them." I think Stephen King's had an awful lot to do with that, and that hasn't helped. But the basis of the clown, and then not only being the clown, but also being the victim in this situation as well. It's very, very cleverly done.
It really is.
Well, thank you.
and I think as well, like you said this before, John, one of the, in my opinion, and I think we all agree, very unfair criticisms of Octopussy is sometimes Roger Moore in a clown suit and all the rest of it. But the clown aspect, I mean, it was David and Tony Meyer who brought up the twinning aspect of 009 and Roger, both as clowns. You can't tell in those which one's you. You can't tell which one is your replacement, and you can't.
It's only at the end. Every scene I did, except the last day's film, and that's the sad thing for me. I'm really upset by that, but hey, it happened.
And you can't tell that it's Roger Moore. When he gets in, you all look the same, and and that's the point. As a secret agent, You
He
should
wants to
do.
blend
cover,
in.
is it?
That's it. It's
Just don't go into his tent.
I mean, I've got to say this just for our viewers. Is there a piece of clothing that you might have got with you that you could show people? Is that
Just a
there?
piece of clothes. I have one thing that everybody that ever sees it wants to buy off me, which is Flash Gordon.
Ah,
That was another Mary Sailway.
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Because you were a
Just
Hawkman.
anklet.
Weren't you?
Yeah.
Really? No.
And technically
Yeah.
speaking, we're not going off kilter, but on the basis of that was technically your first stunt job. Am I right in saying?
No, not entirely. Years ago, Martin Grace and Roy Scammell used to run an agency called Action Unique. Going back to 1968, I first met a strongman
Yeah.
called Reuben Martin.
That's
Who
right.
taught
Yeah.
me to hand balance. Now, I met Reuben Martin in Galway near Black Rock, and they got some great rocks. You know, it was an amazing summer.
Mhm.
They scheduled the film to have torrential rains. Didn't rain once. We had firemen's hoses on us the whole time. But the boys and Martin said, "Hey, Andy, we go diving, you know, off the cliffs. You ought to come," because he knew I could dive. But I was a good diver, actually. Not bad. I was once ahead of Brian Phelps, but not for long. So where were we? Yes, so Black Rock. Martin introduced me to this strong man called Reuben Martin. He ran probably the first gym in London. And he ran a sort of agency called Tough Guys. He was an amazing hand balance. If you ever look up Reuben Martin, strongman, wow, he was strong. And so I was introduced to this guy with his big pedal glasses, and he said, "Hey, son, you're pretty good. Yeah, you balanced. You dive. I heard you dive." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Cop, I'll put one hand up." This is an absolute true story. And I was on the rocks, and Martin said, "Don't worry, Andy, he won't drop you." So I said, "I lay back on this," and he literally put me up in the air, and he's going like this. He said, "Where should I throw him, lads? Where should I throw him?" And he said, "You dive." And I don't know how he did it, but I was laying back. We call it a drape lift, you know. And he flipped me and caught me by the hips. And he went to the edge and he said, "Well, cop all of that." And he threw me like a dart and down. It was a good 10, 11 meters. Hit the water and surfaced. And he took off his glasses so he can't see anything. He says, "I'm on target." And I said, "Yeah, but a bit more to your left." "No, you're right." Surfaced. We became great pals. Anyway, that's how I started in stunts.
Right.
He used to give me diving off the side of a ship to advertise shoes. Roy Scammell used to give me jobs. Martin Grace used to give me jobs. I was not a stuntman.
Nice.
But
Roy Scammell was always bringing people on in various bits and pieces. In fact, he brought Reuben on to Oliver and Malcolm Weaver just for a moment. He was working on something else, and they said, "Oh, we'd lovely. We're doing this. Who Will Buy?" I think was the song they were doing, and they said they needed there's a little circus thing, thing in the corner. And wouldn't it be good if we had some hand balancers or something? He said, "What? No, just the person." He dragged Reuben along, and then Malcolm gets thrown in as well, and they all start doing that for about. All of a sudden, they're in that shot. You know, it's fascinating.
I know. It was quite a brigade of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, on Octopussy, if we just go back to that for a moment, the moment where you are hit in the back and you fall back into the water, now, that was what, 12 or 15, 16 feet, something like that. But you were taken away with the current quite a lot. There was a fair old turn of...
I was surprised seeing it the other weekend when we were back to the 40th anniversary. And I thought, wow, this is quite rapid. But, you know, when you're an old man, I was standing on the roof with my roofer friend because I got to get some repairs done. I thought, yet I used to fall backwards off these sort of heights. I must have been balmy. But, you know, hey, we do these things. Now you're a little more careful because it hurts.
Yeah. So, but back then, of course, it was a. I don't know whether I can't remember whether you wore a pad or not. Now, did you have you had a wetsuit underneath?
Because we weren't sure of the depth. I hadn't been in to sort of really recce it first.
Right.
But I knew if you flat the water, you don't go any depth. And I think I did wear a wetsuit because Martin suggested I get one, and I hadn't. I always I winter swim still. In Christmas Day, I go and Bond anywhere in the world. I hope to have a swim outdoors Christmas Day. I shower outside. My whole
Brave
family.
boy, that's what you are.
No.
Wouldn't catch me doing it.
It's not that long ago since the celebrations at the railway.
Yeah.
How was that? How was it like meeting?
good.
Was it the first time meeting some of the other people you'd worked with?
Yeah, it's the first time I'd seen the twins, David,
Right,
Tony,
okay.
Mark. Yeah, they were lovely. And it was a good time. And I was amazed at John Glenn energy. He's 91.
Oh,
I know,
He
he's a
gave
legend.
so much time to these young, as a
Yeah.
young guy. He greeted us when we came in for the second day. And I thought, John, God, he wants to sit down. But he was talking and talking.
yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's a giving man,
Oh,
Like
Very generous. Yeah.
he's
like
such a
Roger
generous
Moore.
man.
Like Roger, yes, exactly. Yeah.
A giving man.
Back in the day, did you get to go to like the premieres of any of these films, or
No,
they weren't extended
no,
to you?
No, but I did get an invite to Roger Moore's sort of. They held a thing at Pinewood Studios
Yeah.
in celebration of Roger Moore, and I was very honoured to be invited because Roger had a sort of personal sort of guide that guided him through, and I've done a number of things for him before, and yeah, it was nice to see John Glenn, and he was always a really nice guy, and I have such I tell one story about Roger Moore. Later on in Octopussy, I was shot down some stairs with a turban on and makeup. My mother used to teach mentally and physically handicapped children, and because having 4 kids, it meant that she didn't have to be all the school hours. And she got a letter from one of a boy that she taught, and the mother had sent a letter saying, I believe your son, Andy, is working with Roger Moore. My son is just such a fan of the Bond films. Is there any chance of getting an autograph? A picture, maybe? And I never do this. I really don't. I'm not very good with stars. And I said to Roger, it's difficult, but he said, what's the problem? I said, well, I've got a letter here. He said, well, show me the letter. So I showed him the letter. He read the letter. We were breaking for lunch. It was the time when they were tying me up in a chair or whatever. He said to me, no, it was he said, you remember those bullets I shot you? In those days, they used to leave the casings, the bullet casings on set. Now you have to clear everything, anything to do with weapons. It's so over the top now. So I got some of these casings and I gave them to him. And he said, great, that's great. He said, can I take the letter so I get them in? I said, yeah, of course. So he came back with a lovely, the cardboard envelope with his picture, and what he'd done is mounted the bullets with 007. He'd scratched on the side of these bullets. And on the little thing, he'd written, these are the bullets that I shot at your teacher's son. And he fell down the stairs. He said, you will get this to him, won't you, Andy? And I said, I went on my motorbike. I went down to the all-night, down in Leicester Square, there's the all-night post office. And I got it, and I did whatever you had to do to make sure that letter got to his mother. And 2 days later, I was back on the set, and he came up to me and he said, did you send it? Did you get it? And I said, yeah. I've got a letter here on my book. Can I read it? And I said, of course you can. And I promise you, tears came into his eyes, and I still cry a bit. And he folded the letter back and he put it in the envelope and said to me, do you know, Andy, that's worth a week's salary to me. And I just, every time I tell it, and I think, wow, what a guy. Fortunately, I've experienced other Bonds. Roger Moore was maybe not in everybody's he talked to everybody on the set. He knew tea ladies' names. He talked to everybody, flirt with anybody. He was great. I really had such respect for that,
Yeah.
And, anyway, enough of that story.
Can I ask as well? Because everybody we talk to just goes on about how amazing a guy Roger is. But you are someone who's worked with other Bonds. You've worked with Sean Connery. You've worked with Daniel Craig.
Yes, but you see, I go back a long way, and I was trying to look for the program before I got on there. I couldn't find it. But years ago in 1976, when one of my sons was born, I did a play in York called View from the Bridge, a wonderful play. And who plays second Docker? Pierce Brosnan.
Oh,
he had 2 lines, and I've still got the program. I know I've got it somewhere. And we became quite good mates. He was the only one in the company. I was living in a squat near York, the Naysmar of York. We weren't paid a lot of money, but it was great training ground. And he was quite down. We used to go to Robin Hood Bay. I'd just done film. What had I done? I think I'd done the Eagle's Landing. I made a bit of money, so I bought this little Mini Cooper S. And he said, yeah, we go to Robin Hood Bay and try and pick up some girls. And I said, well, we'll try, And I was a success. We weren't very successful. It was quite weird. Can you imagine somebody up in Yorkshire saying, do you know, I turned down Piers Brosnan? But he was the only one that had a television in the company. So there was Get Carter being shown on telly. It's a great film.
Yeah.
They all sit down with beers stacked, and it's his telly, and Piers was the host. And he used to say, this is a true story. He said to me, Andy, I've got to keep up all that. He did the Long Good Friday, but nothing was happening for him. He said, I've got to keep up. Piers, look at you. You look great, mate. He said, yeah, I've got 2 fucking words in this film, in this theatre. It's cold here. That's all he had to say. 2 words, 2 lines. And, but yeah, later on, cut to being on a beach, and there he is with Kathy Harris, and we still be hugged,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
of course.
Only, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was the Bond sequence with the Jeep, wasn't there? When
absolutely,
yeah.
Yeah, and he was around there he's with Cassie, and of course, I think he was doing Remington Steele or just because they couldn't get him for the Bond, could they?
No.
Did you have, when you knew him, did you thought he might make a decent Bond one of these days?
No, I didn't think that far ahead. That is a different realm when I'd done a little bit in the Eagles of Landing. That's right, before I went to so that's I'm 76. God, it's a long time ago, isn't it? Yeah. But I've worked a number of times with Michael Caine. And I did the first Bourne Identity film. It was called The Holcroft Covenant.
Oh,
right.
yes.
The Ludlam, Robert Ludlam ones, yeah.
You played a character in that as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I played Hartman. Now, this is a story. John Frankenheimer had come off drugs and alcohol and rock and roll, and it was like a mad. Bad experience for me, actually, even
I've heard that he's quite hard.
Wow, it was incredible.
Quite
incredible. I won't tell you the stories because we could be talking about Bond, but I really wanted to kick him in. One take, he'd been, I knew the sound guy, and I'd been doing quite a bit of training at that time. He wound me up so much that I thought, there's no way I can win. And as he turned round, I just went, and I did a side kick to a dustbin. I made a lovely dent in the side, and the sound man said, it's me. Yes, I can tell you lots of stories about that, but
you mentioned For Your Eyes Only there yourself, and of course on that beach scene, of course, is Reme Julien and his boys, and in fact you had quite close contact with Reme during the 2CV chase, because you are said builder walking up the side of the ladder.
It was quite close at sometimes, John.
Apparently so. Apparently it was a bit too close for certain call.
Excuse me.
It was a lovely little scene, and was that something that was picked up on the recce again, or was that something that was sort of thrown in?
Well, I think John wanted somebody to react in character,
right?
With the old hod. It's good. Now I do remember. I got a great still from it somewhere as well.
I've seen a couple of great stills from varying angles. It was just nice because you had some experience doing building work, the out of work actor thing. Well, we'll wash dishes in coffee shops, and we'll go and do this
and window clean
job over here, and so you were very ample with it. Was it a hod? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's the float and the trowel, and you put your cement on it and you point with it. Right. They do it different. builders in Spain. I'm very lucky to have an old house in Spain. I've been doing for the last 11 years, but it'll get.
And of course, that's the beauty of those type of movies. You can appear in the start of the movie as the bloke up the ladder, having cement thrown all over the place and a 2CV passed very closely underneath the ladder. And then later on in the movie, you can be one of the hoods who is trying to shoot Bond, but it's only much later on down the line do people suddenly go, wait a second, that guy there? And they run the camera, they run the video back or whatever. They go, isn't that so-and-so? So it's great. I think that you can, that type of thing, you can get away with it, in those type of movies.
I have shot myself.
Well,
have you?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, you did. That wasn't. I'm trying to think. What you did? You did a high fall out of a tower.
A long time ago. It wasn't. I had an argument with Roy Alarm about that, but we won't go into that.
Oh, okay, fine, right.
It'd be nice. But yeah, I've done sort of falls. I've got backwards falls. I've worked for Granada. I used to work a lot at TV stuff. I used to do the Minder, which the last 3 series, the Minder as well, right. With an old school buddy. I'd been at school.
But it's a fascinating. I mean, you look at you got over 250 credits as a stunt performer in one shape or form or another, either as a performer, as a coordinator. 86 of those additional credits as an actor that are credited at the present time, and that doesn't include some shows which aren't on there as well. And there was a presenting job that you did fairly early on as well. It's a children's television show.
When did Olga Colbert win the Olympics? I was doing a show at Greenwich called Gymnasium.
That could have been 76. Or Montreal, wasn't it? 76?
No, that was, where was the Olga Colbert Olympics? Anyway, I changed agents. It was, I got a presenting job, a children's presenter, kids show called Watch.
That's right, yeah.
And I was like, I won a BAFTA with it. But
no, I'm 72. I beg your pardon.
They didn't even let me know. And I went back for the sort of the penultimate. I did 19 episodes of this series. And the art director was really good. Said, "Hey, great news, eh?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, the prize." And I said, "What prize?" He said, "Well, don't you know?" And I said, "No, didn't Maura, the producer, ask you to go with her to get the BAFTA?" And I said, "No, I never heard about it." So yeah, she went with her fellow. She didn't think I wanted to go, But I would have liked to have been asked. I wouldn't.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Would have been nice to have been asked, wouldn't it?
It's a good story. There's another good story there. Going to the loo, we had this tank. I'd been a bit of a night out, and we start with it. You've got fish tank. You've got these frogs in the fish tank, and my hand goes in. And the hand comes out, and you cut to the camera, and you go, "You know what this is, don't you? It's called a. It's got these amazing web feet which help with the swim. It's called a." And the whole crew is going. The frog jumps into the thing. Cut. Sorry, I'm really sorry. So we go, okay. You fish for the frog. The frog comes out. Hi, you know what this is, don't you? It's called a. Cut. But it goes into the tank, and what white jeans on, kids show, splash. Right down the front. Shit. Wardrobe, the hairdryer. No. Can I go to the toilet? Yeah. I go to this. I need a mate. Check it. How's it going, Andy? I said, "I hear you doing this thing." I said, "Yeah. It's definitely. We didn't even think about what we got so smashed. And the mic is still on. And they play it back in the studio. So even the producer, I can't remember what I said. I said, "Jesus." Anyway, when I go back in the studio, the whole studio is erupted in with laughter. Applause. Somebody said, "You got a mic, Andy. Did you not know?" And I said, "No, you don't think about that. It's like what you've got around your neck, John." Hey, another story, but I got away with it. They did ask me to go to Australia, but it wasn't,
How long was it after finishing Octopussy that you were out doing Never Say Never? Was that
Never Say Never was that was Never Say Never. I did very little in Never Say Never. Vic Armstrong was the stunt coordinator. They were all going around in sort of wetsuits. It was bloody hot in the studio in wetsuits. flapping around. I remember doing an escapology job actually for a very famous. It was still got a poster of it somewhere, but yeah, when I had to escape from Straitjacket and Chains, and while I was doing that, Vic said, "Yeah, you can go for the audition." So got the job, and I went down to Covent Garden. I got this, the expanding chinning bars.
Oh yeah.
So I rigged one of those up. They put me in the straitjacket, the chains, and laced up the bag, and they hung me up with my feet. I've still got the inversion boots in the cupboard. So I pike up and do the gag, and they've got a stopwatch on it, and they said, "Hey, that's too quick. That's amazing. Could you do it again, but slow it down?" So I said, "Yeah." So stupidly, they got me up, but it was an old building, an old Covent Garden stairwell. I couldn't tighten it up again. So they hooked me back up, and I'm going through. I've got a straitjacket getting over my head, upside down. It's easier to get out of straitjacket, and the bar comes away from the stairwell. So I come crashing down the back of my head. I'm working for Big Armstrong. I was Lucky Bunny, actually, and they were shit scared. Got to the rehearsal of this. We go to the studio, and I asked for 2 O-rings to be put on the boots. The little rings, they called them high tensile brass. Every flying harness had these shackles on the side, brass shackles. And the particular wireman, quite a well-known guy, I said, "I want 2. He said, "Well, you're not an elephant. I weigh 10 stone." So anyway, we're rehearsing and lighting and coming down, and then one of the shackles broke. Lucky I still have the other one, but when you've got the straitjacket halfway, it's pretty freaky to have one leg come away and you're 30 foot up in the air, upside down, and no mattresses because you're coming down near a computer. So I took the O-ring, I gave it to my brother, who's a doctor of chemistry. He runs a big Johnson Matthey Mallory. If you ever see bullion bars, they always have JM on, like bricks, ingots. And from then on, he gave it to one of his minions. He ran the place, and he said, "I want it analyzed, I want it photographed, I want X-rays on it, everything." And so his sort of colleague goes, he said, "What does your brother use this in stunting for?" He said, "Well, they hang off it, all the early, flash cord, all the stuff they hang on this stuff." He said, "This is they call it high tensile. There's no such thing as high tensile brass. When it's blown up, you can see all the striations. Once you put that through flex, it snaps." From then on, I gave the report, and I wished I'd kept it. We didn't have printers in those days. I gave it to Alf Jones, and he said, "Is this true?" I said, "Look, my brother's got degrees in this. It's from, every harness was changed. Buttons, who used to make all these harnesses. I've still got some, leg harness. Everything changed, everything." And I wished my brother, Chris, had got a sort of credit for that. Because,
yeah, absolutely. Making that discovery.
Because we on Flash Gordon, we were on piano wires with no boxes on the floor up at the top of Weybridge Hangar. I mean, jeepers creepers.
Fire! Second wave! Die!
When I think about that, it wasn't until Eddie Stacey came on board. Eddie Stacey wasn't really, but he knew the first AD. David Tringham, and there's a sea of boxes here. And we built literally thousands of boxes. The whole floor was covered. And within the next week, and this is not a word of a lie, we had 3 breakages. Once one piano wire snaps, ping, you put it down, put pressure up, and down you come, 25, 30 feet in the air. You imagine a concrete floor. We'd have been.
No. But you're quite right in saying that's how it always used to be. Colin Skeeping remembers doubling Michael Crawford on Condor Man, hanging about 175 feet in the air
on
with
wires,
the Eiffel Tower behind him, with a piano wire, and nothing else. So they used to do it quite often back then.
Well, piano wires are now banned, of course, because we use Tech 12 and of course they're easy to take out. It's a blue.
You can remove them now.
Blue screen backing. It wasn't green; it was blue. I think.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time, and that was dear Mary Selway put me up for that. And I got a phone call from her. Yeah, she'd been over to see her then present guy, Keith Buckley, that's called Keith Buckley.
Right.
He'd pop down to see Keith Buckley. Does that resound a bell? I was trying to look him up on IMDb, but yeah. She phoned me up one day and she said, "Hey, you're good at heights." And I said, "Do you know that?" She said, "I watched you die at Black Rock in Galway."
Oh, right.
And I thought, wow, she's got some memory. And Anyway, there was a part in Flash Gordon which required flying.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, when I went met Vic, and he says, "You've done this before?" I said, "No, Vic, but I'm pretty, quite a good balance, really. Used to hand balance a bit." And he sent me up in this wire. I was whizzing around up there, and I think he was quite impressed. And in came Dino De Laurentiis with the leather coat over his shoulder. And apparently, this is Vic told me, he came and he says, "I want every man to fly like that man." I landed. Vic said, "Will you impress the governor, mate? I don't know, No, I didn't think about it. I thought, well, I'll get a recall, and I still got a photograph of the lineup downstairs. And I bumped into Terry Forrester near me where I live in London. Terry said, Tuesday, I'll see you Tuesday." And I said, "Well, wow. Well, you'll be coming back. I mean, you are the best at it, mate." "Tuesday, I haven't heard a thing about Tuesday." He said, "Yeah." So I phoned up my agent. I just changed agent. Big mistake. "No, we don't know. No, darling, there's nothing for you here." I said, "You sure?" He said, "No." And so I kept phoning them. I phoned them again. They said, "Oh, I don't know. There was somebody called, what was his name? Vic. I never heard of him. Vic Armstrong," I said. I said, "Yeah." So I said, "You got a number for him?" I think we lost the number. I don't know. This was a big agent in Parkland. Yeah. Big agents.
Agents were always a bit shambly with their admin back then, weren't
yes. They? Ooh. Yeah. You tell that again. Anyway, I said, "Well, lucky I got his number." So I phoned up Vic, and Vic is quite curt. And he said, "Yeah, didn't you get the call? 9 o'clock tomorrow, be there." I was there, of course. But the part got cut. My part, they wanted an older guy, but Vic said, "Do you want to join the stunt team? Because he likes you. The governor really likes you on the wire." So I said, "Well, Vic, I've applied. Start Monday. Don't be late. Be there." I hadn't even got on. So Vic threw me into the deep end. I'd applied. I knew a lot of stuntmen, actually. I used to do gymnastics and stuff, and they were sort of mates. But I used to get doubled by various stuntmen who didn't always turn up.
No. but that kind of works in the favor of you and Vic obviously knowing each other and him wanting you on board for Shepperton or Elstree. What was it for Never Say Never?
We were at Shepperton. We were sometimes at Elstree for the Sky Palace set.
Oh yes.
And we were sometimes at Shepperton. We were all over the place, but it was Weybridge Hangar. We did a lot of work, second unit work, and it got me out of a huge financial stroke, I must say. It really did. And it was great because everybody, but my first big break was after that with Vic on a film called Crow.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and I had to do quite a very nasty stairfall, as we call it. But Ken Marshall, when he took the hit on the top of these staircase, actually went up before he came down.
Right.
And it was really concrete type steps. And I got a very good photograph. And I wished I'd got hold of the record because Denny Powell had seen me before and he helped me get on the register because I did a bike lay down in Denmark when the Danish stuntman didn't turn up.
Yeah.
And I had to crash a motorbike into a camera, but bring it down before I hit the camera, slide into it. And the director was going mad. Then he said, and I said, "Well, I ride motorbikes, I could do that." Then he said, "What, you haven't got any pads?" And he gave me a couple of an elbow pad and a knee pad. And I did it, and they were quite impressed. It worked very well. But he actually spoke when I got interviewed by the mafioso in those days. What's he fucking done and all that was going on. We don't want him as an actor, And then he said, "Well, let me stop you there, mate. I've seen him die. A good friend of mine, Jackie Cooper, has seen him die, and I think he's quite good. He might be quite useful to us." So I thought, I was very lucky boy. And Martin Grace was on, they were, I was a lucky boy. Maybe I've been lucky,
So you are in 3 of my other favorite franchises. You're obviously in Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Inspector Morse. And and my love for them is not necessarily in that order. I'd say Morse might be number 1. I'd just love to hear about your experiences in it, because obviously, like, these are, well, especially the first 2 are massive Hollywood blockbuster franchises, but Morse as well. My dad used to always say when I was growing up, his favorite episode was the one with the brewery, which is obviously The Sins of the Fathers, which you were Trevor Radford in. And I'd just love to hear about your time on Morse, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Peter Hammond was the director on it.
Yeah,
Worked with
yeah,
Peter
yeah.
before on. I used to do a lot of series up at Granada, the Sherlock Holmes with Jeremy Brett, and he was a great fan of mine. I didn't realise it, you know. But I mustn't meander because we were probably it's into dark out there now. Anyway, yeah, Inspector. Yeah, I remember that the director said, you know, this is what he wants. Peter Hammond said, you know, and he's very funny, Peter Hammond. And, he said, and you get hit and you fall down there, and it was steep, wasn't it?
Yes, very steep.
What are you
Very
going to do? What are you going to
steep.
prep? He said, I want to see the floor. I want to see the floor. So I got a big bag of grain and I leaned it up against a very nasty corner, which had a pipe, a big steel, you know, drain pipe. I thought, shit, if I hit that, it'll hurt. So, and Peter's always a bit cynical, stuntman. He said, you're going to fall down there as if you're hit. You're not going to bloody go down step by step. And I was like, you know, work in your head, you can some sort of hit the ground a bit nasty. So I remember I came out, the person came out the shadows, take the hit, and I went down, bang, I stayed still at the bottom. And there was a big silence. And he actually said, if there's a fucking bush in the gate, I don't care. Right, you're right. You know, hair in the gate, bush in the gate.
Bush in the gate, yeah.
Wouldn't ask anybody to do that again.
No.
I worked a lot with Peter Hammond afterwards, yeah, for a number of things. Yeah. Interesting work lunchtime. It was a beautiful summer. It was hot and it was a very beautiful, she called Mercedes. She was a very famous stand-in, a very beautiful girl, actually. We were sitting by the water, by the Thames, and she said, I'd like to see a swim with you. And I got this sort of death makeup on it before they put me into the grey and silent. Love a swim, you know. But I got this makeup. She swimming along, joking away. I'd pull her out. And somebody from, you know, that part of the world, they don't like seeing virtually naked people swimming in the Thames quite so near Henley on Thames. We always get into trouble, don't we?
It wasn't on Christmas Day, was it? Wasn't your Christmas Day?
Christmas come early, I imagine.
Day, John. Lovely. Yes. Oh, God. I better put my nose because I'm not being serious.
That's better.
Yes. Better, isn't it, John? Listen, I'm not good because I have seen one of your shows and I thought I can't do one of these, John.
Oh, we just love talking. Honestly, Andy, don't worry about that. We do just love talking. I mean, we, as I put in the email, you know, if you had a conversation with Lee Sheridan, we think you are, apart from the other James Bonds who are still alive, you are the only remaining 00 agent alive, and I think that is like that. Fair play. You know, no one can take that away from you.
Just from Martin Grace, thank you, Martin.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so good. I mean, are you a Bond fan anyway? Did you grow up?
Well, this is a tricky one because my wife hates Bond very much.
Really? Yeah, so does mine.
Well, we love Marion so much for her technical skills.
I think a lot of it's so sexist, isn't it? They'd never get away with that now, would they? I was looking at what was I looking? I snapped on, I saw a bit of Diamonds Forever. And of course, as a young guy, you can remember all these films, you know. And I thought, wow, you know, the things about the bottom, you know, you'd never allow that. And, you know, beautiful women are feminists. Why not? You know, but
was there any stunt in the Bond series where you thought, I wish I had a crack at that?
Well, yeah, Alf Joint got thrown into a bath by Bond in a fight, and they throw he throws the electric fire after him. Yes, Bond.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's got the line "shocking," and I always remember that as a kid. And then having met, you know, Alf Joint afterwards and talked to him and spent time with him, and he was a great character. He was the coolest guy on the planet, Alf. You know, he was. I'd sometimes have a job to do, which I was a bit worried about, and I'd phone up Alf, and I'd explain what I'm going to do. And I remember once I said to him, "What do you think, Alf?" And there was a long pause, and he said, "You'll probably kill yourself." And the phone went dead.
Don't tell me the truth, Alf. I don't want to hook up.
So suddenly the phone rings again, and he says, "It's Uncle Alf here, Andy. Have you thought of, and have you thought of?" And suddenly it's crystal clear what I'd overlooked, and he's thought about it. And one time I gave the job on Minder, and he just had to be hit on the head or something, fall backwards into a pond. And he'd got a hat on. And I came round to him, and I looked after him incredibly and introduced him to everybody. And I said, "Oh, I've got a pad." And he lifted up his hat, and there was a pad placed on his head. He said, "You can't teach me anything just now." He was great.
So the legacy that's come from Bond, obviously you've been the Neen Valley and stuff. Do you get like asked a lot to say the conventions or those kind of things?
I was a bit stupid on that, really, to be honest, because I'm sort of a bit, I didn't. I got calls, a lot of calls from Comic-Con and things like that, and I kept on saying no. I didn't want to go.
Right.
I could have gone to Japan. I could have gone to all sorts of amazing places. Even South America, I think they have them there too, And then he said, have you, we do pay you. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And he told me. And I said to my wife, I said, maybe I should. It's only up in Birmingham. Well, they treated you like a king, didn't they? And I did them, and I couldn't believe. Going back to Star Wars. Star Wars for me is I got a call from my agent, a guy called Jeremy Conway, good agent, actually. He said, "Darling, there's not much about that. They're doing a sort of, I suppose it's a spacey film." And I said, "It's probably only one day, maybe two." And I said, "Okay, yeah. And it's sort of low budget. They're not." And I said, "Jeremy, cut to the chase. I'm broke. What are they paying?" And I can't quote, it's either 65 a day or 75 a day. And I said, a day? Because I'd done some films before and I'd got an established film rating. I said, shit. He said, but George Lucas started, might go some places and it might be good to do. So I turned up on the set, and the assistant there was Jerry Gavigan, who was the first on that day on the set. And I knew Jerry from Glasgow Sets Theatre. He was an ASM, an assistant stage manager, and we did a Shakespeare tour together. And he said, "Stop being a smart shit. Learn the lines. Go to your lessons." Honest truth. That was his line. It's the biggest shit ever. I'm introduced to George Lucas, and I'm standing there, and I hadn't been introduced to Darth Vader, and I'm told what to do. And this enormous figure comes down the corridor, and I can't remember. I've written lines and so bit. And I heard it was sort of like this high-pitched, bristle voice came up. I says, "Is that you in there, Dave?" Because I had met Dave Prowse through my friends, contacts from, dear old Reuben Martin. And he says, "Yeah, is that you?" And I said, "Yeah, how are you doing?" And I said, "Can we go back to the movie, please?" And I said, yeah. So anyway, he came out and he opened his mouth like corpse sings when an actor can't continue. It was so squeaky and high pitched, and I thought, I can't believe this voice coming out from that character. So he said, "What's the matter, Andy?" I said, "It's okay. It's just the Bristol accent. I'll get rid of it." And George was 2 takes, 2 corpses. So I went up to the cameraman and I said, "Where are you framing?" And he said, "Oh, so when radio." And I said, "Oh, on radio." He said, "Clench my buttocks so hard. Really, there's no way for you to hurt." So I got the lines out. But yeah, I got 2 out of 3 takes. And it went okay. Pictures they sent from all over the world, stills.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Do.
So, from the 75 or 65 quid, and we get, English actors get no residuals for anything they've ever done, as you know, in the early days. So that was it. But, the signings have made up. So we're okay. I've got another beer in the fridge. So
there's a term, in fact, there's a phrase which is now used with ADR, which is known as prowsing, and I suspect it's along those lines because Dave didn't realize he was dubbed until the premiere.
I know.
Wow.
It broke his heart,
He did all the work, he did the dialogue, he did all the mannerisms, the whole 9 yards, and found that he was James Earl Jones at the premiere, and it brought his family, his wife, the whole thing. Didn't know about it. I felt terrible for him.
Oh.
And also when he got asked to do Superman, the Superman production got in touch with him.
That's right.
And he thought he was going to play Superman, you know. But he did get the Green Cross Code, and he was a lovely, gentle guy. He really was, you know. Socially, I've met him. And yeah, dear old Dave.
Yeah, good stuff. It would be remiss of me, because there will be a fairly large audience who will be familiar with you from a series of pictures, as John has pointed out. But for those people who don't know, you were Christopher Lambert's stunt double in Highlander.
Yeah.
That big fight at the end with Kurgan, or Clancy Brown, of course. And it was you and dear Peter Brace.
Peter Brace. I saved Peter Brace's life on that.
Right.
So we're in a studio. We're in a studio where they used to shoot the London's Burning stuff.
Right.
And it's a great set. And there's collapsing scaffolding, you know, coming down. We're all in water. And it's quite difficult to move in that. And we got to the point when it was all sort of happening and we'd sort of finished that little sequence. And I saw this scaffold coming towards Peter Brace. And he was dead in line with it. And I charged him. He's a big, tall guy. And I put my literally into his waist and took him down. He goes, Peter, did you? Yes, from home. I said, Peter. And then suddenly one of them says, Peter, you just don't know how close you were. You were dead in line. You know, and he looked at me, looked up, and he realized.
Well, great memories, though, I must admit. I mean, Highlander, I love that. And that last section, of course, is remarkable. Peter Diamond was the stunt coordinator on that. And Peter Brace, for those people who don't know, again, from the Goldfinger thing that you mentioned earlier, when Bond leaps down from the fence at the start of that pre-title sequence, he kicks a guard in the face. Bond then is Alf Joint for that moment, and the guard is Peter Brace. So
you can go. It's amazing. I can see old Bond films and go, I know when it's going to happen. You know?
Yeah.
My brothers took me to see the first ever Bond.
Right.
Wow.
And we queued round the cinema, Leicester Square, to get in.
Oh, you saw it at Leicester Square, did you? Oh, well done.
Oh, yeah. I even saw, we in the days of the cinema. I always remember, I'd like to go to the big premieres, and I always remember, Space Odyssey,
2001, yeah.
Smashed out. There's a whole group of us. We sat in the front row. This is amazing. So next morning, we were living in a very strange 60s flat. A lot of interesting people moved through this flat. Very interesting thing. And we thought we'd go straight to see another showing, to see if it was as good as we thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was. And we used to play that music so loud, you know. It's incredible, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That soundtrack to Space Odyssey is something else.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm off again, but I did get Royce Gamble classed me Clockwork Orange as one of the gang. And it was that same blooming agent. He said he refused to let me do it there, you know. Right. I went to his home, Kubrick's home, dressed as a skinhead.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was so upset not to do that iconic fight. You know, it was a huge fight.
It was a great fight.
They were all in it. And Royce Gamble was the coordinator. Yeah.
Wow.
Done The Wall as well. You know, the first Pink Floyd film.
That's right, yeah.
But my first ever film, decent part, was The Family Way, which was the Bolton Brothers.
Right.
With Haley Mills and John Mills and Wilfred Pickles. And
I agree with you, wife. You've got to write some of this down.
This has got to come out.
Absolutely essential.
To be, you know, even in a small way, to be like on the set, or you know, to be such a part of British and Hollywood filmmaking over such an amazing time.
I've never been. I've worked in New York, but I've never been to Hollywood.
No, but you know, like, you know, working on Hollywood productions, obviously shot here. But I think it's astonishing to be it's like the Woody Allen film, it's either like this, just there's Andy Bradford in everything, just superimposed on the set of everything that was shot from the 60s to the 90s.
Absolutely, it is one of those things where and I've said it myself before, and speaking with various stunt performers over the years, but your face is so recognizable because of the body of work that you've done, that you what was I watching? Who Dares Wins. You're in the opening sequence of Who Dares Wins. You get shot with a crossbow, through the mouth of all the things, which is the most horrible way to die. And yet you go, hang on, that's you have one of those moments. Everybody does it. He got so recognizable year on year. It's just fantastic.
One of my favorite films is The Princess Bride.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
There's a sequence in The Princess, because I doubled the Man in Black.
Yes.
Carrie Elvis.
Yeah.
Carrie Elvis.
And there's a sequence in there where he meets up with Robin Wright.
Yeah.
And she pushes him down the slope.
It's
tumbles down.
The hill.
You can die too, for all I care.
Oh! As you wish.
Oh, my sweet Wesley, what have I done? Ow! Oh!
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Peter died. The stunt girl, we'd been to see it, and Peter said, "What do you think, Andy?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine with this." The stunt girl said, "Yeah, she was fine." So I do the take, and Rob Reiner's director said, "Hey, okay, yeah, print that. That's good. We got it." So turned to the stunt girl, and she started, and she couldn't do it. And I could feel Peter's sort of tension. We'd been to see it, and he said, "We go again." There was no way she was going to do it. And Peter turned to me and he said, "Get that chest shaved, get those shoes on, and get that costume on." So I came out.
Or doing it.
Well, it's both me and both that.
No way.
Wow.
And I showed it to a colleague of mine over in Spain, Ray DeHaan. You must have heard of Ray DeHaan.
Yeah, fabulous.
He's a good mate. And I gave him his first job, and he always remembers it. Anyway, yeah, it's good. I love that film. It's a great film.
Brilliant film. Yeah.
And it was such fun to work on, and to work with a director like lovely. And the sequence on the cliffs of Moher, which is on the west coast of Ireland, the highest cliffs in Europe, we used to play games with the second unit director, and I'd have the lip mic, just a hidden lip mic, got the black and got the mask on. And it was a game that you had to name a film and name an actor in the film and name another actor in that film when you go on. It might be sort of Anna Cashfrey from, or Marlon Brando in One-Eyed Jacks, and who was the girl in One-Eyed? So and then you've got to name another film which that actor might have been in, Carl Malden. And I remember being on this face, and they took me off the wire. So you're on shadow, and I've got a few pitons driven in. And I'm just moving, because they were on a crane back on the cage. And I could hear them going, Anna Cashfrey, and I'm going, and I could hear, it's one piton gone. Shit.
Oh, dear.
Andy, fuck, come and get me. I had one piton left. I remember, because it's a long way, it's 700-800 feet, those cliffs. They're extraordinary, And when they lower you down, you can hear the wind going. The crane drivers were actually the crane boys were more wide because the cliff does collapse. So yeah, it was quite a job, and that was Peter Diamond, and Peter got me onto dear Peter got me out of a lot of stuff. And Roger Rabbit, I'm afraid.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But I still get the credit in Roger Rabbit, but I arrived and Martin Grace phoned me. Didn't have mobile phones, but he suddenly got hold of me and said, "Andy, I'd like to come to the Arctic Circle. You're dead right for doubling the boy, the lead in this film. The Norwegian Film Company are putting money in." I hadn't been on the floor yet. And I said to Peter, "Martin's been on the film. He wants me to go to the Arctic Circle with him." And Peter was so lovely. He said, "Look, room 71. 774, you get an open line to Norway." Really? The guns. And talk to Martin Norway, and then it's all good. I've got to go tomorrow. And he said, don't worry, Andy, don't worry. So I don't actually appear on the floor in Roger Rabbit. You'll get a credit. So anyway, it was great. It was a wonderful trip. But there's more stories about that one too.
That's it, yeah. But just
I won't go.
It's coming full circle. You mentioned names there. Ray DeHaan, you mentioned, of course. Ray DeHaan later on, from a Bond perspective, doubles Pierce driving the Aston out through the side of the Ice Palace.
Yeah,
wow.
Oh, he's a fabulous driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he comes around here on his motorbikes, I see him waving goodbye, and he always pops it up for a wheel in. It's quite a steep road. There's cars either side. He waves as he goes around the corner. He's something else. Yeah, he came out to see me in Spain. Traveled all across France, Spain, gets on a ferry. He said, I'm coming to see you, Andy. I said, yeah, fine, And he came across, got on his motorbike, unpacked. I said, how long are you staying? A week? No, I go back Tuesday. Anyway, I took him out to dinner. We had a good time. A couple of days, and he goes all across France again, all across Spain, up through France, gets on the ferry. He's an amazing guy.
Wow.
Loves a ride out. Fantastic.
What film has been your favourite that you've worked on?
I had a wonderful time with Peter Diamond on a terrible film called King Solomon's Mines.
King Solomon's Mines, yes.
It was terrible. But and I did love The Princess Bride. That was such a fun film to do. There's something on the set about that film. Yeah, that was lovely. But I got on really well with Richard Chamberlain. He's such a nice guy. We used to joke together, and he always said, where do you disappear to on the weekend? You're never around the hotel. I said, I go on my little adventures. And we go up into the woods. We steal the second unit camera car or the van, and we take some blankets, and we go up to the mountains, Umbura Carrera, which is wonderful. We have these springs on the way down. I used to smoke a lot of very nice local weed, and we hang out there. We'd get there Saturday night, wake up Sunday morning, go through. He said, I want to come with you, Andy. I said, got some wonderful clips. Richard Chamberlain having a ball. Absolutely. But unfortunately, the film had Sharon Stone. He wasn't very nice. I won't tell stories about Sharon.
Out of curiosity, on the mention of it, did you work on the sequel as well? They did Alan Quatermain and the Lost City.
No,
you didn't do that, did you?
I wouldn't go, John, because of my political belief.
I see, because of it, yes.
And Richard called me and he said, why aren't you coming to South Africa? And I said, I won't come. I have feelings about it. I did lie a bit to say that really Equity didn't really want us to go. And I said, I won't go. And Peter Diamond said, oh, Andy, they really like you. And I said, yeah, I know, and I like Richard, but I can't do it. Lucky for me, I get back to London thinking, okay, I'm out of work now, I got a phone call from Peter, and he said, you worked on a Japanese show you told me about, Roundhouse, learning to do work with Japanese swords and sticks. And I said, yeah, Peter, I played the lead in it. So, yeah, I had to learn all this with a mask on. He said, could you teach Christopher Lambert how to use a katana? So I said, you can't do it in a day, Peter. But anyway, I met Christoph, and we worked together. Of course, every actor picks it up, has his own style. You've got to copy their style, whether it's correct or not. I was taught very, very traditional. The sword, the cleaning, everything. But of course, was a sword. And Christopher Lambert was great. Bill Panzer and Peter Davis, the producers of Highlander, had seen me working with Christopher and said, hey, with a week on, he could be quite a good double for him, couldn't he? So I ended up doubling. And it was great, 14, 15 weeks with Peter Diamond.
Alan Quatermain's loss was Highlander's gain. Yeah, right.
Well, maybe, yes. I have fond memories of Peter. He's been a good man to me at a time when the chips were down, but they weren't. I worked with Peter,
So obviously, last weekend it was the Nene Valley Railway. You had a great time, but I mean, this is based on like an Octopussy 40th anniversary celebration. The legacy that film's left, the legacy that 009 has left. We just want to say thank you so much for your contribution. Obviously, in cinema in general. I mean, you're an acting and stunt legend. But
I don't think so. None of my kids think that.
Well,
yeah.
But we just want to say thank you so much.
I've been lucky, Bunny. I was lucky, having a conversation changed my life, and I phoned him up, and he came to see me once in a theatre up in York, because he lives in Yorkshire now. And I said, I owe you, Terry Long. I owe you, thank you, for pushing me a different way than where I was going to go. And you don't know where life's going to take you. That was Can you see that? Now let me get it.
Just lift it a bit higher.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
Now, the guy with the horns, I'll put my finger on me. That's me. And you got 11 years old, a little primary school not far from where Alf Joint was born.
Oh, yes.
That was my only ever stage performance, one performance, and then I started a career in acting.
And look at you now.
Wow. Amazing.
Brilliant.
Super.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Andy.
An amazing experience.
Okay.
Thanks
Andy,
a
God
lot.
bless.
Cheers.
God bless you.
Yeah.
See you
Thanks for your
later,
time.
Andy.
Take care.
Ta-da.
Hey, Darren, got your juice. Just watch it.